The chair of the Science Operations Working Group of NASA's Mars Exploration Rover mission. That is some title, Amitabh. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. You're in Washington, D.C. Look, it was the 1970s. I don't know how old you are, but I was a kid at that time. I was watching Space 1999, and Martin Landau was the commander. And I loved it because it was so far removed from reality. How close really are we to having a base on the moon and extracting its natural resources and have people living there?
Absolutely. So we are actually very close. And the reason we are very close is not just because it's NASA. So NASA plans to go back to the moon and land humans in 2024. But you have two billionaires in the world, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. They have their sights set on the moon. Bezos and his company, Blue Origins, particularly, they want to set up a lunar base on the moon. So it is really, if you think about it. So you said you saw in the 1970s you saw humans land on the moon. Think about, say, the early 1900s when there was no commercial aviation, and so there was no infrastructure, there was no laws for people to fly from one country to another. We are kind of at that stage, but right now the um, SpaceX and NASA and Blue Origins, they are preparing to go and make it very easy to go to the moon. It will just take 3 days. It's just very close, 384,000 miles away. Very, very close compared to Mars, which is 200 million miles away. So this is going to happen. This is going to happen maybe in this decade. So before 2030, this will be pretty normal.
Yeah, but presumably we're looking at commercial enterprises that are driven by countries who might, of course, subcontract to private companies. We're not necessarily talking about hotels and going on a holiday to the moon. So in terms of its commercial viability, what is there on the moon and in the moon that we could use on Earth?
Okay, so the short answer is it's not known. When you started commercial aviation, there was no support, there were no passengers. The Postal Service actually signed up to support commercial aviation when it started. Here, if you think of the world tourism market, it runs into maybe trillions of dollars, maybe $5 trillion. Think that even if like 1% of that were to migrate to space tourism and said that, well, okay, fine, I'm going to pay $50,000 to fly my family for a round trip to the moon for 7 days. Well, if that happened and 10,000 people signed up, it will completely change the game. So, and there are other uses to space. You might find metals there, valuable metals there. But first, before all that happens, you need that infrastructure, the transportation infrastructure to travel from here to the moon. And that's what Blue Origins and NASA and SpaceX are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, do you think that possibly Russia, India, and China will eventually sign up to these Artemis Accords? And how critical is it that those three major players don't go their own way? It was 2007, the Russians sent a submersible to the North Pole, and underwater, they planted a Russian flag back in 2007, saying one day we are going to come back and show the world that, look, we were here first, so we have the rights to explore here.
Right. So I think what the Artemis Accords are, it's just some very common sense rules of engagement in this new territory, which is space and which is the moon. And it says some things which are very simple, that we are going to use it for peaceful uses, that we are going to bail each other out in emergencies, that we will have standards which are common standards. So, for example, NASA vehicle will be able to dock into a Russian spacecraft. Some set of very common sense rules which does not really deal with territorial issues that, this is my land or that is your land. In fact, it just says that, well, land is still on the moon is still international, but you can take materials away for use or for analysis. So I do think that this is really so something similar is there in 1967. The Outer Space Treaties Act was signed, and Artemis Accords is essentially a successor to that. It just makes some very basic ground rules for exploring outer space. That's all it is.
No, I think it's very exciting for people who look to outer space for some sort of inspiration. Amitabh, we literally have 15 seconds left. According to your specialist subject, how long before humans go to Mars? Very briefly.
Uh, Elon Musk is trying, I think by 2030, definitely.
Oh, my word. Oh, you know, I'll only be 62 years old. Amitabh, thank you so much indeed. Amitabh Ghosh from NASA there, speaking to us from Washington.